Hello students, welcome to CBSE Grade 9 Science Physics Motion Part 3. In this lesson, we will solve numerical problems based on important concepts of motion. First, we will discuss uniform circular motion, where an object moves in a circular path with constant speed but continuously changing direction. Next, we will solve problems related to acceleration, which is the rate at which velocity changes with time. Then we will practice numericals using the equations of motion, which help us calculate velocity, distance, acceleration, and time for moving objects. Finally, we will learn how to interpret motion graphs, such as distance, time, and velocity time graphs, to understand motion more clearly. Let's begin solving these numericals step by step. Now let us move to numerical problems based on uniform circular motion. In this section, we will solve different numerical questions where objects move along a circular path with constant speed. To solve these problems, we mainly use the relationship between speed, distance, and time. Remember that when an object moves in a circular path, the distance covered in one complete revolution is equal to the circumference of the circle. The circumference of a circle is 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by the radius. Using this idea, we can calculate the speed, time taken, or distance covered in circular motion. Now let us look at some numerical examples to understand this concept clearly. Now let us look at Type C numerical problems based on uniform circular motion. In these types of questions, we usually need to calculate the speed of an object moving along a circular path. To solve such problems, we use the basic formula for speed. Speed is equal to distance divided by time. When an object moves in a circular path, the distance covered in one complete revolution is the circumference of the circle. So the formula becomes speed equals circumference of the circle divided by time taken. Since the circumference of a circle is 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by the radius, the distance covered in one round is 2 pi r. Sometimes the object moves around a circular field or track. In that case, we use the perimeter of the field as the distance traveled. So the formula becomes speed equals perimeter of the field divided by time taken. Using these formulas, we can easily solve numerical problems related to uniform circular motion. Now let us solve the first numerical problem based on uniform circular motion. An artificial satellite is moving in a circular orbit around the Earth. The radius of the circular path is 42,250 kilometers. The satellite takes 24 hours to complete one revolution around the Earth. We need to calculate the speed of the satellite. First, let us write the given values. The radius of the circular path is 42,250 kilometers. The time taken for one complete revolution is 24 hours. To calculate the speed, we use the formula. Speed equals distance divided by time. Since the satellite is moving in a circular path, the distance covered in one revolution is the circumference of the circle. The circumference of a circle is 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by the radius. So the speed becomes 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by the radius divided by time. Substituting the values, we get 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by 42,250 divided by 24. After solving this expression, we get the speed of the satellite. Therefore, the speed of the satellite is 11,065 kilometers per hour. Now let us solve the second numerical problem based on uniform circular motion. An athlete completes one round of a circular track of diameter 200 meters in 40 seconds. We need to find the distance covered and the displacement after 2 minutes 20 seconds. First, let us write the given values. The diameter of the circular track is 200 meters. The radius of the track is half of the diameter, so the radius becomes 100 meters. The time taken to complete one round is 40 seconds. We need to find two things. First, the distance covered after 2 minutes 20 seconds. Second, the displacement after 2 minutes 20 seconds. Let us start by calculating the distance covered in one round. The distance covered in one round of a circular track is equal to the circumference of the circle. The circumference of a circle is 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by the radius. Substituting the value of radius, we get 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by 100, which is 200 pi meters. Next, we convert the total running time into seconds. 2 minutes 20 seconds is equal to 2 multiplied by 60 plus 20, which gives 140 seconds. We will use these values to find the total distance and displacement, which we will calculate in the next step. Now let us continue solving the problem. We already know that the distance covered in one round is 200 pi meters. First, let us calculate the distance covered in 140 seconds. Distance covered in 1 second is 200 pi divided by 40, which gives 5 pi meters per second. So the distance covered in 140 seconds is 5 pi multiplied by 140. This gives 700 pi meters. Taking the value of pi as 22 divided by 7, the distance becomes 2200 meters. Now let us calculate the number of rounds completed by the athlete. Number of rounds equals distance covered in 140 seconds divided by distance covered in 40 seconds. So this becomes 700 pi divided by 200 pi, which is 3.5 rounds. This means the athlete completes 3 full rounds and 1 half round. After 3.5 rounds, the athlete reaches the point exactly opposite to the starting point on the circular track. Therefore, the displacement is equal to the diameter of the circular track, which is 200 meters. So the final answer is, after 2 minutes 20 seconds, the distance covered is 2200 meters and the displacement is 200 meters. Now let us solve the third numerical problem based on motion along the boundary of a field. A farmer moves along the boundary of a square field whose side is 10 meters. The farmer completes one round of the field in 40 seconds. We need to find the magnitude of displacement after 2 minutes 20 seconds. First, let us write the given values. The side of the square field is 10 meters. The perimeter of the square field is 4 times the side, so it becomes 10 multiplied by 4, which is 40 meters. This means the farmer covers 40 meters in one round. The time taken for one round is 40 seconds. Now let us find the distance covered in 1 second. Distance covered in 1 second equals 40 divided by 40, which is 1 meter per second. Next, we convert the total time into seconds. 2 minutes 20 seconds is equal to 2 multiplied by 60 plus 20, which gives 140 seconds. Using this information, we will now determine the position of the farmer and the displacement, which we will calculate in the next step. Now let us continue solving the problem. We already found that the distance covered in 1 second is 1 meter. So the distance covered in 140 seconds is 1 multiplied by 140, which is 140 meters. Now let us calculate the number of rounds completed by the farmer. Number of rounds equals distance covered in 140 seconds divided by distance covered in 40 seconds. So this becomes 140 divided by 40, which is 3.5 rounds. This means the farmer completes 3 full rounds and 1 half round. After 3.5 rounds, the farmer reaches the corner diagonally opposite to the starting point of the square field. So the displacement is the straight line distance between these 2 points, which is the diagonal of the square. The diagonal of a square is equal to the square root of the sum of the squares of the two sides. So the displacement becomes square root of 10 squared plus 10 squared. This is square root of 200, which is equal to 10 root 2 meters. Therefore, the displacement of the farmer after 2 minutes 20 seconds is 10 root 2 meters in the northeast direction from the starting point. Now let us move to the next set of numerical problems based on acceleration and equations of motion. In this section, we will solve different problems where an object is moving with uniform acceleration. To solve these questions, we will use the 3 equations of motion that relate velocity, acceleration, time, and displacement. By applying the correct equation based on the given values, we can easily calculate speed, acceleration, time taken, or the distance traveled by the object. Now let us start solving some numerical examples based on these equations of motion. Now let us look at type D numerical problems based on equations of motion. In these types of questions, we mainly use the third equation of motion. This equation relates velocity, acceleration, and displacement without using time. The equation is 2 multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement equals final velocity squared minus initial velocity squared. Or in simple form, 2as equals v square minus u square. Sometimes we may also use the formula for acceleration. Acceleration equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. By using these equations appropriately, we can calculate distance traveled, acceleration, or velocity in different motion problems. Now let us solve some numerical examples based on these formulas. Now let us solve the first numerical problem of type D. Rahul starts from a stationary position and paddles his bicycle. After 30 seconds, he attains a velocity of 6 meters per second. Then he applies the brakes, and the velocity of the bicycle reduces to 4 meters per second in the next 5 seconds. We need to calculate the acceleration of the bicycle in both cases. First, let us write the given values. The initial velocity is 0 meters per second since Rahul starts from rest. The first velocity is 6 meters per second. The second velocity is 4 meters per second. The time taken to reach 6 meters per second is 30 seconds. The time taken during braking is 5 seconds. We need to find 2 accelerations, which we call a 1 and a 2. To calculate acceleration, we use the formula. Acceleration equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. Let us first calculate the acceleration while Rahul is paddling. Acceleration of 1 equals 6 minus 0 divided by 30. This gives 0.2 meters per second squared. So the acceleration while paddling is 0.2 meters per second squared. Now we will calculate the acceleration during braking, which we will continue in the next step. Now let us calculate the acceleration when Rahul applies the brakes. In this case, the initial velocity is 6 meters per second and the final velocity becomes 4 meters per second. The time taken is 5 seconds. We again use the formula. Acceleration equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. Substituting the values, we get acceleration equals 4 minus 6 divided by 5. This gives minus 2 divided by 5. So the acceleration becomes minus 0.4 meters per second squared. The negative sign shows that the bicycle is slowing down, which means this is deceleration. Therefore, the acceleration in the first case is 0.2 meters per second squared, and in the second case it is minus 0.4 meters per second squared. Now let us solve the second numerical problem. A ball is gently dropped from a height of 20 meters. Its velocity increases uniformly at the rate of 10 meters per second squared. We need to find two things. First, the velocity with which the ball strikes the ground. Second, the time taken for the ball to reach the ground. Let us first write the given values. The initial velocity is 0 meters per second because the ball is dropped gently. The displacement is 20 meters. The acceleration due to gravity is 10 meters per second squared. First, we calculate the final velocity. For this, we use the equation of motion. Velocity squared equals initial velocity squared plus 2 multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement. Substituting the values, we get velocity squared equals 0 plus 2 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 20. So velocity squared becomes 400. Taking the square root, the velocity becomes 20 meters per second. Now let us calculate the time taken. We use the formula. Acceleration equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. Rearranging the formula, time equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by acceleration. Substituting the values, we get time equals 20 minus 0 divided by 10, which gives 2 seconds. Therefore, the ball strikes the ground with a velocity of 20 meters per second and it takes 2 seconds to reach the ground. Now let us solve the third numerical problem. A train starts from rest and attains a velocity of 72 kilometers per hour in 5 minutes. We assume that the acceleration is uniform. We need to find two things. First, the acceleration of the train. Second, the distance traveled by the train while attaining this velocity. Let us first write the given values. The initial velocity is 0 meters per second because the train starts from rest. The final velocity is 72 kilometers per hour. We convert this into meters per second. 72 multiplied by 5 divided by 18 gives 20 meters per second. The time taken is 5 minutes, which is equal to 5 multiplied by 60, that is 300 seconds. Now let us calculate the acceleration. We use the formula. Acceleration equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. Substituting the values, we get acceleration equals 20 minus 0 divided by 300. So the acceleration becomes 1 by 15 meters per second squared. Now let us calculate the distance traveled. For this, we use the equation 2 multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement equals final velocity squared minus initial velocity squared. Substituting the values, we get displacement equals 20 squared divided by 2 multiplied by 1 by 15. This gives 3000 meters, which is equal to 3 kilometers. Therefore, the acceleration of the train is 1 by 15 meters per second squared and the distance traveled is 3 kilometers. Now let us solve the fourth numerical problem. A stone is thrown vertically upward with a velocity of 5 meters per second. During its motion, the acceleration due to gravity is 10 meters per second squared in the downward direction. We need to find two things. First, the maximum height attained by the stone. Second, the time taken to reach that height. Let us first write the given values. The initial velocity is 5 meters per second. At the highest point, the final velocity becomes 0 meters per second. The acceleration due to gravity acts downward, so we take the acceleration as minus 10 meters per second squared. First, let us calculate the maximum height reached by the stone. We use the equation 2 multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement equals final velocity squared minus initial velocity squared. Substituting the values, we get displacement equals 0 squared minus 5 squared divided by 2 multiplied by minus 10. This becomes minus 25 divided by minus 20, which gives 1.25 meters. So the maximum height attained by the stone is 1.25 meters. Now let us calculate the time taken to reach this height. We use the formula acceleration equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. Rearranging the formula, time equals final velocity minus initial velocity divided by acceleration. Substituting the values, we get time equals 0 minus 5 divided by minus 10, which gives 0.5 seconds. Therefore, the stone reaches a height of about 1.25 meters in 0.5 seconds. Now let us solve the fifth numerical problem. A train is traveling with a speed of 90 kilometers per hour. Brakes are applied so that the train experiences a uniform acceleration of minus 0.5 meters per second squared. We need to find how far the train will travel before it comes to rest. First, let us write the given values. The initial velocity is 90 kilometers per hour. We convert this into meters per second. 90 multiplied by 5 divided by 18 gives 25 meters per second. The final velocity is 0 meters per second because the train eventually stops. The acceleration is minus 0.5 meters per second squared. We need to find the distance traveled before stopping. To calculate this, we use the equation of motion. 2 multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement equals final velocity squared minus initial velocity squared. Substituting the values, we get displacement equals 0 squared minus 25 squared divided by 2 multiplied by minus 0.5. This gives 625 meters. Therefore, the train travels a distance of 625 meters before it comes to rest. Now let us move to the next set of numerical problems based on graphs. In this section, we will solve questions using distance time graphs and velocity time graphs. Graphs help us understand how motion changes with time. From these graphs, we can calculate important quantities such as speed, velocity, acceleration, and distance traveled. For example, the slope of a distance time graph gives the speed of the object, while the slope of a velocity time graph gives the acceleration. Also, the area under a velocity time graph represents the distance or displacement traveled. Using these ideas, we can easily solve numerical problems related to motion. Now let us look at some examples based on motion graphs. Now let us solve this question based on a distance time graph. 4 cars A, B, C, and D are moving on a leveled road. Their distance versus time graphs are shown in the figure. We need to find which car is the slowest. To answer this question, we must remember an important concept. In a distance time graph, the speed of an object is represented by the slope of the graph. If the line is steeper, the slope is larger, which means the speed is higher. If the line is less steep, the slope is smaller, which means the speed is lower. So, the smaller the slope, the smaller is the speed. From the figure, we can see that line D has the smallest slope compared to A, B, and C. Therefore, car D is the slowest car. Now let us study this distance-time graph of three objects A, B, and C and answer the given questions. First, remember an important concept. In a distance-time graph, the slope of the line represents the speed of the object. The greater the slope, the greater is the speed. If we observe the graph carefully, the line representing object B makes the largest angle with the time axis. This means object B has the greatest slope. Therefore, object B is traveling the fastest. Next, we check whether all three objects are ever at the same point on the road. If that happens, all three lines must intersect at one common point on the graph. But from the figure we can see that there is no single point where A, B, and C meet together. Therefore, the three objects are never at the same point on the road at the same time. Now let us find how far object C has traveled when B passes A. First, locate the point where the lines of B and A intersect. From that point, draw a vertical line downward to the time axis to identify the time. Then draw a horizontal line toward the distance axis to read the distance. From the graph, we find that object C has traveled about 6.4 kilometers when B passes A. Finally, we find how far B has traveled when it passes C. Locate the point where the lines of B and C intersect. Again, draw a horizontal line to the distance axis. From the graph, we observe that object B has traveled about 4 kilometers when it passes C. Now we will continue with numerical problems based on graphs. In this section, we will learn how to interpret motion using graphical representations. Graphs make it easier to understand how distance, velocity, and time change during motion. By carefully observing a graph, we can determine important physical quantities such as speed, acceleration, distance traveled, and displacement. For example, the slope of a distance-time graph represents speed, while the slope of a velocity-time graph represents acceleration. Similarly, the area under a velocity-time graph gives the distance traveled. Using these concepts, we can analyze motion clearly and solve numerical problems more easily. Now, let us solve some examples based on motion graphs. Now let us solve this numerical problem based on a speed-time graph. A driver of a car is traveling at a speed of 52 km per hour and applies the brakes uniformly. The car comes to rest in 5 seconds. Another driver in a second car is traveling at 34 km per hour. He applies the brakes slowly and the car stops in 10 seconds. We need to find which car travels a greater distance after the brakes are applied. Remember an important concept. The area under a speed-time graph represents the distance traveled. For the first car, the graph forms a triangle between the initial speed and the time of 5 seconds. So, the distance traveled equals half multiplied by speed multiplied by time. First, we convert the speed from kilometers per hour to meters per second. 1 kilometer per hour is equal to 5 by 18 meters per second. So, 52 kilometers per hour becomes 52 multiplied by 5 divided by 18 meters per second. Substituting the values, the distance traveled by the first car is 36.1 meters. Now let us calculate the distance traveled by the second car. Again, the graph forms a triangular region under the speed-time graph. So the distance traveled is half multiplied by speed multiplied by time. The speed of the second car is 34 km per hour, which becomes 34 multiplied by 5 divided by 18 meters per second. Substituting the values, we obtain the distance traveled by the second car as 47.2 meters. Comparing the two values, we see that the second car travels a greater distance after the brakes are applied. Now let us solve another numerical problem based on a speed-time graph. The speed-time graph of a car is given in the figure. We have to find how far the car travels in the first 4 seconds and also identify which part of the graph represents uniform motion. First, remember an important concept. The area under a speed-time graph represents the distance traveled. So, to find the distance traveled in the first 4 seconds, we calculate the area of the shaded region under the graph from 0 to 4 seconds. From the graph, the shaded region is approximately similar to a triangle. Therefore, the area can be calculated using the formula for the area of a triangle, which is half multiplied by base multiplied by height. Here, the base is 4 seconds and the height is 6 meters per second. Substituting the values, the distance traveled becomes half multiplied by 4 multiplied by 6, which gives 12 meters. So, the distance traveled in the first 4 seconds is 12 meters. Now let us answer the second question. Uniform motion means the speed remains constant. In a speed-time graph, constant speed is represented by a straight line parallel to the time axis. From the graph, we can see that the line becomes horizontal from 6 seconds to 10 seconds. Therefore, the part of the graph between 6 seconds and 10 seconds represents uniform motion of the car. Now let us answer this conceptual question based on a distance-time graph. The question asks, what can we say about the motion of an object whose distance-time graph is a straight line parallel to the time axis? To understand this, remember that in a distance-time graph, the slope of the graph represents the speed of the object. If the line is parallel to the time axis, it means the distance remains constant as time passes. In other words, the object is not changing its position with time. Since the distance does not change, the speed of the object is zero. Therefore, the object is stationary or at rest. Now let us look at another conceptual question related to a speed-time graph. The question asks, what can we say about the motion of an object if its speed-time graph is a straight line parallel to the time axis? In a speed-time graph, the vertical axis represents speed and the horizontal axis represents time. If the graph is a straight horizontal line parallel to the time axis, it means the speed remains constant with time. Since the speed does not change, there is no acceleration. Therefore, the object is moving with uniform speed, which means it covers equal distances in equal intervals of time. Now let us consider another conceptual question. The question asks, what is the shape of a velocity-time graph for non-uniformly accelerated motion? Non-uniform acceleration means that the acceleration is not constant. Since acceleration changes with time, the velocity does not change at a constant rate. Because of this, the velocity-time graph will not be a straight line. Instead, the graph can take different shapes depending on how the velocity changes with time. Therefore, the velocity-time graph for non-uniformly accelerated motion can have any shape, usually appearing as a curved line rather than a straight line. Now let us answer another question. The question asks, draw the distance-time graph for a car moving with non-uniform speed. Non-uniform speed means that the speed of the car keeps changing with time. Since the speed is not constant, the distance covered in equal intervals of time will not be equal. Because of this, the distance-time graph will not be a straight line. Instead, the graph will be a curved line, showing that the speed is changing continuously. Therefore, for a car moving with non-uniform speed, the distance-time graph is a curve rather than a straight line. Now let us see how the velocity-time graph looks for an object moving with uniform velocity. Uniform velocity means that the velocity of the object remains constant with time. Since the velocity does not change, the value of velocity stays the same at every instant of time. Therefore, when we draw the velocity-time graph, the line remains horizontal. This horizontal line is parallel to the time axis, showing that the velocity is constant throughout the motion. So, the velocity-time graph for uniform velocity is a straight horizontal line parallel to the time axis. Now let us look at another question. The question asks, plot a speed-time graph when the body is under non-uniform acceleration. Non-uniform acceleration means that the acceleration of the body is not constant. As a result, the speed does not increase or decrease at a constant rate. Because the rate of change of speed keeps varying with time, the speed-time graph will not be a straight line. Instead, the graph appears as a curved line, showing that the acceleration is changing continuously. Therefore, when a body moves with non-uniform acceleration, the speed-time graph is a curve rather than a straight line. Now let us understand the speed-time graph when a body is under non-uniform retardation. Retardation means that the speed of the body decreases with time. Non-uniform retardation means that the rate at which the speed decreases is not constant. Since the decrease in speed is not uniform, the speed-time graph will not be a straight line. Instead, the graph will be a curved line sloping downward, showing that the speed is decreasing at a changing rate. Therefore, for non-uniform retardation, the speed-time graph is a downward curved line. Now let us look at another situation. The question asks, draw a velocity-time graph when the speed changes alternatively. When the speed changes alternatively, it means that the velocity sometimes increases and sometimes decreases with time. So the motion is neither uniform nor steadily accelerating. Because of this, the velocity-time graph will not be a straight line or a smooth curve. Instead, the graph will rise and fall alternately, forming a zigzag pattern. This shows that the velocity is increasing during some intervals and decreasing during others. Now let us understand another case. The question asks, plot the velocity-time graph when the velocity increases in a stepwise manner. In stepwise motion, the velocity remains constant for a short interval of time and then suddenly increases to a higher value. After that, it again remains constant for some time before increasing once more. Because of this pattern, the velocity-time graph looks like a staircase. The horizontal parts show constant velocity, and the vertical jumps show sudden increases in velocity. Therefore, when velocity increases in a stepwise manner, the velocity-time graph appears like a series of steps. Thank you for watching this lesson on CBSE Grade 9 Science Motion. I hope this session helped you understand the concepts and numerical problems more clearly. For notes, worksheets, and study materials, you can visit our website and join our Telegram channel. The links are available in the description below. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more educational content. See you in the next lesson. Happy learning!